Okay, helpful, and this is the question. Helpful medical and scientific advances aside, IA makes me anxious. Are there any indications in end times prophecy that could be about AI in the tribulation?
Okay, we're talking about AI,
Yep.
artificial intelligence, right?
Yep.
Okay. You don't have specifics, but when you're looking at Revelation chapter 13, this is a section that talks about the Antichrist's rule over the world, basically. And there's a passage in chapter 13 where it talks about the beast out of the earth, and it says in the passage, verse 14, he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he has granted, which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man. His number is 666. And so you have a number that each person has, a mark specifically that each person is given, and it has nothing to do with cash. This is a cashless society. You can't buy or sell without this mark. And so when you're looking at the last days, one of the things that the Bible predicts is that there's going to be a digital currency, basically. And we can see that the whole world is moving towards that. It also talks about the fact that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark of, or the name of the beast or the number of his name. How are you going to do that? How's that going to happen? And that, again, you're talking about a system that isn't just confined to one kingdom. You're talking about a system that is worldwide at this point. And so that, again, has to be digital, and there has to be some way of identifying people. There has to be some way of knowing how transactions are going, whether or not transactions are taking place, that kind of situation. And so AI is totally that it's a setup for being able to do that kind of thing. Normally, what you would have to do is you would have to have people who would be monitoring digital transactions to be able to put this in place. In the sense that they'd have to be on top of this kind of thing. Right now, we've got all kinds of digital transactions that we can make that has no reason for specific IDs in the sense of something on your right hand or your forehead. And so there's this whole combination of situations here, plus the fact that this is a controlling. It has a controlling aspect to this. What the beast wants to do is control the people on the planet. Again, how do you do this? When you're talking about the internet, we've got Bitcoin. We've got a number of ways that people can bypass government currencies. And the only way that you would be able to chase this down digitally again is if you have a group of people who are taking care of that. Well, if you have AI, you don't need that. And if you have AI combined with quantum computing, there's this whole revolution in computers that's about to come on the scene, and it has to do with quantum computing. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of that because it's way kind of complex. But basically, what you're looking at is, again, a digital revolution. It's going to take the speed of computers and multiply them radically, like better than 1,000 times as quick as far as calculations go. Well, you take AI and you combine it with that, and you're going to have computer programs that could literally track every transaction that you have going on the planet. And so there's an indication that could be what's being spoken about here. Not only that, but there's deception that's taken place in this passage also. And when you're talking about AI and quantum computing, specifically with AI, one of the things that's going on right now is corporations and schools are trying to figure out ways that they can tell if somebody is using AI to do papers, for example, or to do their work, for example, because you can get on Chat GPT and say, I saw it. I did it once.
Right.
I said, give me a sermon on thus and such subject. And it came up with a sermon. And it was a 3-point sermon, and it wasn't very good, but they came up with a sermon. And actually, most sermons in America are not very good.
Yeah.
And so.
Didn't you do too, by Chuck Smith or something, and it did a flavor
Oh, yeah.
style of Chuck?
Yes, exactly. Did that too. And so you've already got that going on digitally as far as writing goes. The other thing that can be taking place is they can go in and, a picture is worth 1,000 words and a video is worth even more. Well, they can use AI to mimic people. Actually, that is taking place right now. There are scams that are going on right now where people are taking and recording your voice and using it to try to get money over the phone. And they're using AI to do this. And so they could record my voice actually mine is prime for this kind of nonsense because there's so much of my voice out there on the internet.
Sure.
So they could take my voice and they can make a phone call to somebody and make me say literally anything to that person. And what's usually happening in this kind of scam is basically the phone call will come in. I'm on the side of the road and my debit card's not working. Can you please call this number and give them so much money and blah 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 blah.
Go get a gift card from Target.
Yeah, go get a gift card from Target. Yeah.
There was one, I don't know if you saw it. It was a car that crashed into one of our border security checkpoints up in north by Canada, northeast Canada. Mm-hmm. And the car flew flaming fire into the building, whatever. And the video came out, and they were trying to decipher if it was an AI video or an actual event.
Oh wow!
And because that technology's out there, they're looking at it, going, "Is this fake or real?"
Right.
And that's the point where we're at in technology.
Right. Exactly. And so you got a situation right now where you guys have probably heard of gaslighting, and what that means is. It's the idea that I say things to you that are obvious lies, and I try to make you think that those things are true and that you're crazy for not believing them. And this is what politicians are doing with us right now. They'll say that for example, the whole situation with the border is not open. It's an obvious lie. Mm-hmm. And you have people who believe it because they've been gaslighted. Well, imagine if you've got an AI that's in control of all media. And, I've never been to, I have been to the southern border, but I haven't been to the southern border to see any of this stuff. I'm relying on news reports and video and that kind of thing. I'm relying on eyewitness testimony about the fact that certain things are happening on the border. And what if the eyewitness testimony is not an actual eyewitness? What if it's an AI construct, CGI? And so obviously the Antichrist is going to be somebody who's trying to deceive the whole earth, and AI can work in that whole thing. I think there's a limit to AI. One of the things that people are worried about is that AI is going to, that a computer intelligence is going to take over the world and destroy all of humanity. Well, the Bible's clear on the fact that doesn't happen. And so, but that also puts the events that we're talking about when we're talking about end times in the near future. Because when experts are talking about AI at this point, they're talking about, right now, they're not even talking about consciousness, and it doesn't even matter whether AI has consciousness. What they're talking about is intelligence. And when you're looking at AI, is basically it's a computer program that's been programmed by somebody, and it's programmed with certain parameters, certain algorithms, but it's programmed obviously by a programmer, and so that programmer is putting within the program his values, his views, his vision. And now the AI goes on onto the internet and starts doing things. And it's going to be all based on that. And as time goes on, what happens is these programs get more intelligent, not conscious necessarily, but they get more intelligent, and they can outwit anybody who's trying to stop them in certain areas. And when you talk about this connected with quantum computing, you can get some real dangerous scenarios. And so you've got a guy who is greeny, and he decides that anybody who eats meat is polluting the world, and so they need to be stopped. Well, you put that into an AI, and the AI takes off with it, and it doesn't have any other kind of moral compass. How do you stop a person like that? And you can imagine all kinds of scenarios that can come up where that gets taken care of, whether it's false arrest or whether it's being killed by somebody because they get bad information, or that kind of stuff. It's it's a bunch of scenarios that you can have that you see in different arenas in the movies. So back in the 80s, they had a movie called War Games, where an AI was able to take over the nuclear arsenal of the United States. And that's something that people are actually worried about, that kind of stuff. And then it goes on from there. But there are limits to this whole thing, in the sense that the Bible doesn't teach that the world is destroyed through AI.
Right.
But the Bible does teach that there's a highly manipulative man who comes on the scene, and he is able to manipulate people into believing him and following after him and treating him like he's a god. One of the things that you would have with AI, and again with quantum computing, is you would have a situation that anybody who has access to that and controls something like that is going to be omnipotent almost.
Right.
Know everything. Like, again, when we're talking about AI, we're talking about something that can scan the internet, find every piece of information that's on it. And again, with quantum computing, in the sense that everything can happen quicker, it can know things instantaneously about people and about situations and about anything that it finds on the internet, basically. And when you talk about the internet is not going to just include those things that you have on the World Wide Web, in the sense of digital information that's been written into it. It's going to include things that are going on in your house, because what's happening now is people's houses are being connected to the internet. And so when you think of Alexa, or even doorbells, and some of the camera,
they can do it through your thermostat. They can do it.
Exactly.
The one guy found that his vacuum went to a server in China, and they could backwards hack into his Wi-Fi through his vacuum.
Wow. So there you go. And that's the Chinese doing that.
Yeah.
Just think of a radically intelligent AI, and what we're talking about here. Again, you got to divorce intelligence from consciousness, but an AI is going to be way radically more intelligent than anybody on the planet, and again have an IQ that's off the charts, and so they have an AI that taught itself chess in a matter of like 8 hours, in the sense of it. Well, it was taught chess, but it became better than any grandmaster on the planet within 8 hours.
Right.
And so
what about, I've heard you talk about this before, not to open up a can of worms, but when the Antichrist gets taken out or it looks like he dies, that he comes back with this weird resurrection thing that could at that point be morphed into an AI version type of thing.
Well, when you're talking about the image of the beast, we don't know what the image of the beast is.
But it's the propaganda guy.
Yeah. Yeah, the propaganda guy is the one who's doing this stuff.
Right. And so if you took World War II, which they had a ministry of propaganda, which was able to push their agenda,
Right.
with the technology of AI mixed with the spiritual, and I have a verse in Matthew 24:24, for false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. There's this weird spiritual thing going on there that is absolute deception.
Right.
And now you're mixing the spiritual satanic ability that his demons around the world can now have an excuse to how to unpack that in technology.
Right. Yep. And so, when I look at the image of the beast, I don't know exactly what's going on there. That could be a clone. Back when I was a kid, they thought it was a computer that was in Brussels that was running banking. It was a central banking type computer. They even called it the Beast.
Really?
Yeah. And so people thought that, and I always thought that was pretty out there. But it could be a clone. It could be something that has to do with holograms. It could be something along those lines. Just heard about a group of people that actually people over in Europe watch hologram concerts. And so one concert was ABBA, like the original, the young version of ABBA. They watched a whole holographic concert of ABBA.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, it's like that is one of those passages that I don't know exactly what's being spoken about there, but it could very well have something to do with some of the technologies that are on the verge of coming about here. We are in the end of times, because again, when we're talking about the technologies that we see coming on the scenes that are coming down the pike, the humanity is not going to be able to survive them.
Right.
And so some of these technologies are worse than nuclear weapons, because they're going to be things that people can control from their basements. So interesting.
Exciting
Interesting
times.
times.
2024.